Sex is the life force energy that runs through us all. Can you use sexual energy for your spiritual evolution? Or perhaps for emotional healing? Is it even possible? Clinical sexologist Dr. Martha Tara Lee will explore all these and more on Eros Evolution on OMTimes Radio.
Hello. Welcome to Eros Evolution, where sexuality and spirituality meets. My name is Martha, or you may call me Dr. Martha Tara Lee. I'm a sexologist based in Singapore, and my company is called Eros Coaching. You can find me on eroscoaching.com. That's EROS coaching.com. Today, I'll be exploring the theme of sexuality in hip-hop music and culture with Kitty Pride. And this is a very exciting topic for me because I know very little about hip-hop music and culture. I kid you not, because I'm not a very auditory person. So I really appreciate this topic that Kitty will be presenting to us today. So let me just introduce and explain more a little bit about today's show. Hip-hop is, as many of you may know, is a cultural phenomenon which has inspired the whole world. Even with its inspiration, it has been controversial, with sexually suggestive and misogynist lyrics and imagery that has caused concern for many people. And this is the reason why this is such a fantastic topic for today's show. At the same time, hip-hop has been a culture that has been organized without further understanding of sexuality and how it affects, stimulates, and fits in. And this is why Kitty Pride today will share with us her synopsis of the history of sexuality in hip-hop, where it is currently, and where she would like to see it go in the future. So she'll be offering to us insights on how hip-hop culture can be educated while influencing tolerance and responsibility. So let me introduce a little bit more about our guest today. Her name is LeKeisha Jones, also known as Kitty Pride. She's a sexologist, poet, sex blogger, and body worker who specializes in reproductive and sexual wellness. She is currently a candidate for the Masters of Social Work at Boston University and is a student at Sex Coach U. So she plans to further her career in the sexuality field as a sex therapist and educator, with the hopes of attending the Institute for Advanced Study of Human Sexuality. Her website is sexbykittypride.com. That's KITTY pride.com. So welcome, Kitty, onto the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on. So tell us a little bit more for those people who don't really know what actually is hip-hop.
Well, like it was mentioned, hip-hop, I mean, it's a culture, it's a worldwide phenomenon. It's a culture of people that... And it's actually started here in the United States, in New York, in Southside Bronx. That's pretty much the history. It's made up of 4 elements, which would be rap, DJing, breaking, and graffiti arts. So it's not just music, but most people associate hip hop with the music, with the rap, and even DJing in many occasions. And, you know, I've been a fan of it since I was, you know, in high school, middle school, high school-ish. And, you know, it's been very...
Hello? You cut off, sorry.
Okay, it's okay. But, you know, being from an urban community and how I grew up, you know, hip hop was played, you know, pretty much everywhere at school. I'm a PK, so we weren't allowed to listen to a lot of secular music, but we would sneak and listen to our favorite rappers. So, but it's a in essence, hip hop it is a culture. There are people who are fans and have been part of the culture all over the world.
Fantastic. So I guess you pretty much answered my question. what's the difference between hip hop and rap? So rap is a pillar under hip hop.
Yeah, rap is, I mean, it's more dealing with lyrics. It's poetry over a beat, basically. In the early days, a DJ would spin records, and an MC, or also known as a rapper, and some people would contest and say there's a difference, but the MC would get on the microphone, MC meaning someone who practices microphone control. They control the crowd, but they get on and they spit, as they would say, poetry or lyrics to the beat, and that's ultimately what rap is.
So, tell us more about your interest in hip hop.
Well, as far as like my personal interest, I mean, I'm also a poet, so a lot of my inspiration came, actually, majority of my inspiration came from hip hop and just urban music, period, growing up. I wrote like I was a rapper, even though I'm not a rapper. I kind of regret not practicing when I was a kid. I'd probably be able to freestyle now, but it's always just been a major part of my life, and in regards to how I've been able to express myself in my poetry and even in my writings, and even with the sexological field, being able to connect with people. I feel, at least, and this is my opinion, but based on what I've seen, there's not much in this field really reaching out to that particular culture and group of people, especially in urban communities. And I guess I've always been the girl from around the way, and so that's kind of how I reach people. I allow hip hop culture to inspire me even in my studies today. Because it's the culture of the people. It's the culture of the people that I grew up around and that I continue to be around.
Earlier you mentioned that you are doing some studies or training relating to music and hip hop. Could you tell us more about it?
Oh no, not with. Well, actually, yeah, I am taking a course with Bun B and Professor Penn of Rice University. It's in conjunction with Rice University. Outside of the other studies I'm doing in religion and hip hop, and it's been a really awesome experience so far. We're in our second week, and basically they're showing the correlation between religion and hip hop. How at least some of what I've written is in response to some of what they've been talking about. Religion is usually part of a culture. Hip hop is a culture. When it comes to, just for example, just with music, or better yet, with the rapper, with the MC. The MC is kind of like the minister or the imam rather, or the monk, or whoever is leading the people, inspiring the people. The MC or the rapper in hip hop culture does the same thing. And so it's showing basically the correlations between the two and how both continue to inspire and influence just culture all over the world. So we're still early on in the class, but I've done some of the reading and it's been pretty inspiring so far.
That's awesome. Awesome that you're starting this program and also interested to explore this topic on today's show. So just very briefly before we go into break, how is this connected to spirituality? Because you did mention a little bit about the parallels between religion and hip hop.
And that was a question I've been thinking about when you would ask. But, spirituality, this is one thing that hit me today. My zodiac sign is Aries, and my birthday is coming up. And our mantra is the I am. And I am, I grew up the Christian faith, and the I am in the Bible, there's a scripture where God is saying, or Moses is asking God, who do I tell them that I am? Or who do I tell them that you are? And God is like, tell them that I am. And I think when it comes to hip hop and sexuality, it's all about being able to be who you are, be yourself. Hip hop, in my opinion, is a culture where, it's for everyone. It's for the outcast. It's never been for the status quo, but yet and still, people can, from anywhere, from any culture, can be part of this. And it's about community, but it's also about individuality. And I think when we understand who we are as individuals, we can have a better spirituality about ourselves.
Oh, I love what they are saying. It's really, really profound. It's really awesome. You're right, because we are all trying to figure out who we are and being able to express it in any form, writing, hip hop, music, poetry. These are all different ways in which we can find ourselves. And in doing that, we find out who we are. So it's actually very much related to, I guess, our voice, the voice that needs to come forth and speak, and therefore definitely related to our spirituality.
Yeah, and it ties into sexuality, especially with some of the things that's been happening within the last few years that's been controversial. There has been some, the controversy has been, well, I guess I'll have to talk about it more because I have to go on break, but it's been a lot of controversy.
Fantastic. After the break, we'll explore more about hip hop and its link with our sexuality. So tune in to Arrow's Evolution.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Live with medium Lisa Phoenix, Mediumship Messages and Musings, explores mediumship and all things metaphysical. Lisa Phoenix invites you to reach above and beyond your everyday experiences to explore new dimensions in the spirit world. She will do live readings to connect callers to their loved ones in spirit, shares engaging stories and teachings from her own personal experience, and will have intriguing conversations with other mediums, spiritual teachers, and healers to help you understand the metaphysical world so you can connect to these forces in your day-to-day life. Join your host on this magical and metaphysical journey into the world of spirit every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business. Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. Your conscious lifestyle on steroids.
Welcome back to Arrow's Evolution, where sexuality and spirituality meets. My name is Martha. I'm a sexologist, and I have with me today LeKeisha Jones, also known as Kitty Pride. So Kitty has received her pen name from her friend because she actually performed a few times at Apache Café in Atlanta, Georgia, for her poetry, for her bold, unexpectedly bold poetry, and therefore she got this pet name. So she is a recent graduate from the Ashford University, where she received her Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology with the highest honors. So she has been studying all forms of relating to sexuality for almost 13 years with the intent to demystify, enlighten, educate, and empower through philosophy, history, spirituality, and science. So as I mentioned just now, she's currently also studying in her master's in social work and is also studying with sex coach Yu. So her website, once again, is sexbykittypride.com. So just now before the break, we were talking about the link between hip hop and our spirituality. So let's talk a little bit about the link with sex and hip hop. Kitty, why are there so many sexually suggestive lyrics and images in rap songs and videos?
I mean, honestly, I honestly don't know why. I mean, people make the excuse that it is a male-dominated genre, and it is. But I think that I'm kind of tired of using that excuse because there's women who are using, misogynistic lyrics as well and things like that, especially as of lately, since since 90s hip hop. I think that this is just me personally. I think it's just a way for people to express themselves, sexually. I think that as a whole, especially in American culture, there is a spirit of sexual repression and suppression anyway, and especially in urban communities where there are a lot of issues with sexually transmitted infections and teen pregnancies and having children out of wedlock and things like that. It's kind of run amok in urban communities where you're going to hear a lot of hip hop music anyway. And I think that a lot of the artists, I believe they started, it became sexually suggestive as a way of expressing how they really feel based on where they came from. A lot of the artists would say that their influences, at least nowadays, a lot of their influences is from 90s, early 2000 hip hop artists, and the 90s, early 2000 hip hop artists would say their influence came from the 80s, and also before that, it came from the pimps and the players from the 70s, from blaxploitation movies, and it could go on and on and on. But directly, I would even just say, just based on what's happening in urban communities anyway, it's a way for them to express sexuality that's going on in the streets right now. And what's been going on in the streets, for God knows how long, basically.
So how do you explain all this homophobia lyrics as well? Is it really about expressing themselves, or maybe, I guess, trying to figure out their way? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's a good question. I mean, there's been a lot of controversy. There's been a lot of rumors about a lot of artists. But truth of the matter is, I know here in the United States, most people that listen to hip, well, it's mainstream. I know it's mainstream practically all over the world, but I know here in urban communities where it's predominantly African or Black American, homosexuality has not really been something that's accepted by the community. And so I know even how I grew up, it was not something that was accepted. So it was easy a lot of times for these artists. I haven't really heard a lot of artists lately, using homophobic lyrics, at least for the last few years, because there's been more gay rappers becoming open. Matter of fact, last night on my show, I interviewed the first openly gay rapper, Fly Young Red. And they're starting to become more tolerant. But I know back in the day growing up, and even up until recent times, I think it was just something that was accepted because that's how everybody was raised. But I feel like there is a shift, there is a transition. And part of the reason why I'm passionate about doing what I'm doing by reaching that particular community is so that they can have a foundation of understanding and teach them, you know, tolerance when it comes to sexuality. It's kind of like, it's so funny, just to give you a correlation between both. I know Dr. Patty Britt has said something along the lines of sex is what you do and sexuality is who you are. But Minister Server from the Temple of Hip Hop, who's based here in Atlanta, it was started by KRS-One, but he says about hip hop the same thing. He says, rap is what you do, hip hop is who you are. Mm-hmm. And so being able to meld both together and getting them to understand that you can be who you are. You could be gay, you could be straight, you could be whatever. Or I don't even like to say straight, but you could be gay, heterosexual, you could be bisexual, whatever. And just know that this is who you are, and you know you are a major part of this culture, just like everyone else.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So you mentioned just very briefly about scandals. What? So tell us more about that.
Okay, it's been a few years, but I know one was with DJ Mr. C, based in New York with Hot 97. He's known for, you know, being part of breaking into Notorious B.I.G. early in his career. And his, basically his relationship, well, his sexual experiences with transgender prostitutes. Of course, here and up there, they kept referring to them as trannies and transsexuals, but it was transgender women. And it was obviously embarrassing because he was arrested for soliciting a prostitute. You know, so that would have been one. And it's always been rumors with rappers hooking up with trans prostitutes, trans women, and sometimes with each other. Rumors of them being gay, yada, yada, yada. We often heard about it on the radio, especially, you know, growing up. But let me say something even with that, because I think that, because now it's been about lately with the culture, at least what I'm sensing, it is about trying to understand how to tolerate, still have your views, but still understanding there's people who are not going to be heterosexual that is part of the culture. I think it's childish of these rumors coming out, accusing people of being gay as if being gay is a bad thing, or dating a transgender woman or trans man as a bad thing, or just anyone who I guess is not considered quote unquote heteronormative. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's people have done it based on their ignorance. You know, I mean, the whole idea of quote unquote, and I see them on YouTube all the time, these videos exposing a particular rapper who's a homosexual, exposing their homosexuality or their bisexuality. I mean, it's a mess. And I'm coming live right now saying that they need to stop. It's totally something that is doing nothing but harming the culture. And it's harming a group of people, in this particular case, people part of the LGBTQ community, you know, trying to say that whether they come out or not, that they need to be exposed or this is a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a natural thing. And as a result, there's a lot of people that's part of the culture who's confused as far as, you know, being LGBT, or they're becoming just as homophobic or transphobic, you know, as a result of that. I think that it needs to stop. I think we need to embrace, whether they are or not, whether they come out of the closet or not, we need to embrace them as human beings and as sexual beings and let that be it. Just period.
Yeah. I feel this is not just in hip hop. This also happens all around the world, you know,
Absolutely.
even outside of hip hop, making people feel bad for who they are, ousting them before they're ready to come out of the closet for themselves. And that's just downright hurtful and, can lead to very bad consequences. For instance, people who are not able to accept the fallout and maybe they kill themselves and things like that.
Right.
So,
in fact, can I mention one thing too?
Yeah.
Mentioned on my show, Fly Young Red was talking about that because I asked him if he, does he agree with people coming out? And he basically said, I'm paraphrasing what he said, but it should be up to the person. They may not be ready to come out. You don't know their situation. Sometimes their situation is a matter of life and death.
Yeah.
I wonder if people understand, and I'd say that to the hip hop generation, to the culture, that you need to understand how serious it is for someone to own their sexuality, and if they decide to come out with it, to actually come out. It really can be a matter of life and death. And anybody who's a hip hopper already knows that life and death in our culture, in this culture, in our culture, is something that is major. I mean, we've lost some major rappers over what was said and over what was done and was taken out of context. We lost Tupac, we lost Biggie over something that was said and over something that was done. And we're putting other people's lives on the line, careers on the line. I think Chingy, a rapper here in the United States, he talked about how he lost record deals. He lost a lot of business deals because of rumors of him being with someone who is trans, just because of the transphobia. We've got to cut this out. We've got to understand what it can do to people's lives until we get to a place where, as a worldwide phenomenon as a whole, we have to understand tolerance and be educated about these things.
And this is really serious things that you're talking about. And there's this appeal and a call out for people to be more responsible. So we have a break right now. After the break, we'll discuss more about hip hop.
The cutting edge of conscious radio. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
The truth is, you can't change the world if you're broke. I know. I tried. Isn't it time you turned your life's calling into a profitable, freedom-based business? I'm Michelle Barr. Join me every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern for Sacred Success.
Hi, my name is Monica and I'm the host of Co-Creating Now. Give yourself an opportunity to connect with your all-knowing higher self and manifest joy, love, and peace together every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business, and share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business. Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
You are listening to Eros Evolution on the OMTimes Radio Network. You can share this show with your friends right now by sending them the link omtimes.com/mobile. And this allows them to listen to the show without needing to have an app. So just the link and your friends will be able to tune in to the show. That's omtimes.com/mobile. We are with Kitty Pride, and she's talking about sexuality in hip-hop music and culture. If you liked all the things that she's been talking about, you can get more of her on her website, sexbykittypride.com, to read her past blogs, to listen to her internet radio show, and to connect to all her social media channels. She has an ebook out entitled Sex by Kitty Pride. That's the name of the ebook and also the name of her blog. So you can listen to her live radio broadcast every Wednesday night at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for all the various topics on sexuality as well as urban and hip-hop music. So Kitty is offering all the listeners out there an offer to her ebook. So for the first 50 people who email her, you'll get her ebook for free, and you can email her at sexbykittypride@gmail.com. That's sexbykittypride@gmail.com. You'll get her ebook that is worth $59.90. Am I right? $5.99, Kitty?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just drop her email and she'll be able to send you her ebook, and that's very generous of her. So it's just limited to the first 50 people. So just before the break, we were talking about something really serious about hip hop, about how this can be hurtful and it can lead to very negative consequences, literally life and death. And so I begin to understand how using hip hop, you can use it to teach tolerance.
Yes.
Because of all this negativity that can come from some of these messages, do you feel, Kitty, that hip hop should be censored?
I guess the only way I can answer that is yes and no. I mean, in a way, it's censored. I know here in the United States, we have parental advisory stickers on like everything. People are forewarned if there's going to be color. I like to call it colorful language in the music. I don't think anything should be censored. I do understand that there are cultural norms that should be honored at the same time. So I guess it would just depend on where it's being played. I know many cultures do not censor the music. I've heard that Europe does not censor rap on the radio, but here in the United States, everything is censored, at least for commercial radio, commercial television. But you could hear the full uncensored version on the internet, if that makes sense. So that would be the only thing I would say. But I also mentioned, especially to rap artists that I personally know, we still have a personal responsibility for what we say. So we just, if you choose to say it, just own it, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So back in Singapore, where I come from, there is a lot of censorship. And in a very, very short time, in the last, like this year is going to be the 50th birthday anniversary of Singapore. And our founding prime minister actually passed away last week.
I heard.
Yeah, so that made like international news. So in a very short time, we actually became very successful economically. And it's partly due to censorship. How we have very strong laws and we put all the communists behind bars, and there's lots of censorship. And even now still in local media, there's still a lot of censorship, and you can pretty much consider a lot of the messages propaganda, at least in local papers. So lots of people have a very misconstrued idea of the world around them, and gives them a false reality of where Singapore is really placed in the world. So I agree with you definitely. Censorship, yes and no. We do need to have some kind of discernment about it. And when you try to protect people too much from what's real out there, I would consider them maybe emotionally or intellectually immature. It's like their growth becomes stagnated.
I definitely agree with that myself. Yeah.
So I'm just, wondering, besides all the things that we talked about relating to hip hop, how can hip hop open its doors to be sexually liberated and maintain this balance of respect and responsibility?
Well, I can definitely say, especially the last few years, it has been opening up. I mean, Macklemore, who's another hip hop artist here in the United States, he came out with a song, Same Love. He won a Grammy, and he talked about, you know, the idea of, you know, he rapped about it, even though he is not gay, but he was talking about same gender relationships and how there should be tolerance. I mean, in fact, I remember on the Grammys, I think it was last year, he performed this song, and then they did a open ceremony between same gender loving couples. And I think there was some, you know, heterosexual couples as well. They did a wedding ceremony for all of them to promote, you know, at that time, and people are still fighting for it, but same gender marriage here in the United States. So it is starting to become a political voice. I just think when it comes to sexuality, I think that we still have a ways to go, but I think it's just because the education is needed. The foundation is needed. I talked about the four, what I call pillars of hip hop. But in every culture, sexuality and relationships is a major part and a major foundation of it. You know, so it's something that hopefully, you know, based on my relationships with the people here in Atlanta and even in the United States, hopefully going forward, people will see me eye to eye and realize we need to develop something for, you know, because it's times are changing. I mean, and people are becoming more open-minded. But, you know, it's like with Fly Young Red last night when I interviewed him, you know, he considered, you know, he is an openly gay man. However, you know, and he's a good sport. He's an excellent sport. He has followers all over the world. However, here in the United States, especially, is where he gets the most criticism for being a gay man, for expressing himself the way he does as a hip hop artist, as a rapper, because he's gay, because he's reaching a gay audience. He's making music for the LGBT community through the voice of hip hop. I think it's remarkable and I think it's awesome. It's just that the flack that he's been getting, you know, it's really just based on ignorance. But once, you know, we get past the ignorance, we educate the people, we educate the streets that sexuality is who you are, just like hip hop is who you are. And it is okay to embrace both. And sexuality is a major part of hip hop, because if it wasn't, all the lyrics that has been out, you know, the misogyny and things like that, I mean, it would have never been a big deal. So obviously sexuality in hip hop is a big deal. But we've got to come to a place where we have to tackle these issues. We got to address them full throttle. And at the same token, we have to educate the people who listen, who are fans, and who are part of the culture of hip hop.
Yeah, I really love what you're saying.
Yeah.
Besides being just an expression of who they are, anyone can just pretty much jump into hip hop as a community and begin to stir up some awareness. And this is what the GLBTQ rappers would be doing, because they have their voices heard and they are creating a space for other people to come forth. And it's not easy to be the pioneer and then you get all this flick, you know, it's really not easy. And yet it is really more than just, I feel, about hip hop. It's more about advocacy work, like you said, you know, how you can change the world from the ground up with their voice and their song and the music.
Yeah. And then And then I would even, say, hip hop, like I said, it's worldwide. It's I've heard about the culture in Singapore. I've come across some rappers in Hong Kong, Europe, especially in France, Africa. I mean, there are MCs all over the world, and they're really making moves. And here in the United States, where it originated from, especially New York, they see that. So to try to say, okay, everyone can eat at the table of hip hop, but if you're gay or you're trans or if you're not heterosexual, or if you're not, and I'm gonna just go here, if you're not a woman who can be in my music video, then we don't need you. It's kind of ridiculous. It's not to say everyone's like that, because like I said, I see a transition happening. It's just that, we've got to get a hold of what exactly, how sexuality can be embraced in hip hop music and culture in a way to where it's more responsible and tolerant, basically. That's to me, that is what's needed. That's definitely what's needed.
And how are you involved in this picture?
Okay, well, what I've been doing, and it's been a struggle for me because I've been reaching out to a couple different production companies. I'm more than likely going to do this myself, but creating a documentary where I talk about sexuality in hip hop from every aspect of the culture, and then talk about where I believe it's going and where it should go. And it's been a journey. I've been able to contact, a few different people, and there's people in many cases, like they're ready, they're waiting on me to get going. And then in other aspects, people I've reached out to, it's just more so of, what do we need to talk about sex for? But again, I think it's just the mindset of the people. They don't know what to expect, which is why I'm glad I did this show, because maybe perhaps they'll get the gist that this is not just about sex and screwing. This is sexuality. This is about tolerance. It's about liberation.
So more after this break. Thank you so much, Kitty.
Thank you.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Live with Medium Lisa Phoenix, Mediumship Messages and Musings, explores mediumship and all things metaphysical. Lisa Phoenix invites you to reach above and beyond your everyday experiences to explore new dimensions in the spirit world. She will do live readings to connect callers to their loved ones in spirit, shares engaging stories and teachings from her own personal experience, and will have intriguing conversations with other mediums, spiritual teachers, and healers to help you understand the metaphysical world so you can connect to these forces in your day-to-day life. Join your host on this magical and metaphysical journey into the world of spirit every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for School Girls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi, welcome back to Eros Evolution, where sexuality and spirituality meets. My name is Martha, and my website is eroscoaching.com. I'm a sexologist based in Singapore. I'm also available via Skype. And as for our guest today, Kitty Pryde, you can find her on sexbykittypryde.com, where you will get all her links to her blogs, her internet radio show, the links to all her social media platform, and also access to an ebook where you can get for free the first 50 people by emailing her at sexbykittypryde@gmail.com. So today, in today's show, we talked about a lot of very serious things, heavy but necessary. We talked about what is hip hop, the 4 different pillars or components of it. We talked about how hip hop is connected to our spirituality and to our sexuality, as well as how through hip hop we are able to use that as a way to teach tolerance and to help people understand about their sexuality or as sexuality as a whole. So let's talk a little bit about things that are a little bit lighter. So how can people get involved with hip hop according to you, Kitty?
I would say the first place you can start at, you can go to YouTube and you can watch some of the rap videos. You can Google, if you don't listen to it, you could kind of Google it and look up certain artists. A great starting point right now, some of the artists that's out right now that I'm listening to is J. Cole, and I love Kendrick Lamar's new album. Let's see, Jay-Z is a great artist. Nas, those are legends. And then even in your local community, I am pretty sure there is a group of kids somewhere that is breakdancing and they're doing a rap battle where they're kind of going back and forth and rapping to each other and try to out-rap each other, basically. I've heard of certain things, but I would start there. It's more so, if a rap artist comes into town and has a concert, definitely go check one out and just enjoy yourself. It'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a lot of fun, I can assure you. And then, as far as the spirituality, and I messaged him and I told him about the show, messaged him to let him know. Hopefully he'll listen to this show later, but Minister Server from the Temple of Hip Hop. I would say definitely Google the Temple of Hip Hop. That's a great place to start. It's based here in the United States. It was started by KRS-One, who's also known as the teacher. I do not know KRS-One, but I know Minister Server, and he's been very, he's been very encouraging as far as my career moves and getting into sexology and things like that. But if you visit them, I know they have a Facebook page. They have some stuff on there that you can look up more, to learn more about the cultural aspect of hip hop.
That's fantastic what you're sharing, mentioning the names of these artists that people can look up, and also Temple of Hip Hop.
Yeah.
So some of the listeners out there, maybe you are not in hip hop. However, perhaps your children might be, and that might be a good way to discuss, understand more about hip hop, and then be able to discuss hip hop in general with your kids.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing. If I don't mention this, I know I'm gonna be fussed at. But make sure also Google Zulu Nation. If you really want to get down with hip hop, Google Zulu Nation. The pioneer of that is African Bambaataa, who's also a hip hop cultural phenomenon and a legend. So definitely check that out. And I'm sorry, what was your question again?
No, that's great. I was just talking about parents and how they can use hip hop as a way to connect better with their kids.
Oh. See, that's a little difficult because now we have to get a little cultural. I think that just listen to what your kids are hearing. If they are a hip hop fan, don't judge it initially because the lyrics, you can't really take a lot of the lyrics literally. It is like poetry, and they are speaking from a perspective of their own personal experiences or a thought or whatever, but the lyrics are metaphoric. So just be mindful that if it's not to say that you have to listen to uncensored music with your kids. If you don't want to listen to anything that is uncensored, then definitely don't do it. Get something that's censored. But, try not to be judgmental about it. It is going to be loud. There is a lot of bass, especially nowadays. And there's a lot of beats, a lot of drums being used. But, listen to it and then have a discussion about what they listen to and ask them how they feel about it. And, try to reason with them. It's still pretty young. I mean, we're talking about, let's see, technically since the 70s, about 78 is what they say in the books. I would say a little longer. And it has its roots in jazz and gospel and blues here in the United States. A lot of the African American musical culture, that's where its roots come from. And even further back, even into slavery here in the United States with the call and response. So, kind of understand that. Yeah. But, that aspect, but also when you listen to the lyrics now, just kind of discuss it and just with an open mind, just be open-minded.
Yeah. So I really like your tips for parents out there, and you're definitely a resource person that they can also reach out to through your website, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They can email me or they can go to my website and drop me a line. I may have to do a blog specifically for hip hop now. My website, I mainly speak from more of an urban voice, but as far, I don't talk about hip hop and sex like literally and directly, but it's more from that. It's from the perspective of someone from an urban community and an urban mindset, dealing with relationships and things like that. But they can definitely reach out to me. And as well, Twitter. Twitter is probably easier.
And also, if they're unsure about the name of the artist, I suppose they can always just reach out and contact you.
Yeah. And I mean, if you have a concern about an artist, especially, you can reach out to me. I can answer any questions, and I can even refer you to, like, if there's an artist you don't like, I can refer you to a better artist that you may like that's a little better and something you could receive a little better.
That's really great. I really appreciate how you're offering yourself as a resource. And just now you were mentioning before the break about your desire to do a documentary exploring sexuality in hip hop. And I really feel your desire and your passion for it. So if there's anybody listening to this show, there's one fantastic woman who is big, bold, and proud, and she has this passion for hip hop. If you want to help her, support her in her project, please contact her through her website. That's sexbykittypride.com. So thank you so much for coming on to this show.
Yes.
Just before we were discussing about where people can hear you doing poetry.
I am around town in Atlanta. I would like to travel, hopefully if the opportunity is right. If you don't mind listening to bold and uncensored poetry, it's all erotic poetry. So, but for now, if you're ever in the Atlanta area, I'm often at Apache Café. They do a Sunday night poetry night. And a lot of times I'm there. I'm not there as often as now because of grad school, but I may just be up there this Sunday. So if you're in Atlanta, you can come check me out there at Apache Café. And you can just Google Apache Café in Atlanta, and the information will show up.
And also, just now you mentioned you have a YouTube as well, a video.
I kind of do. I have a few. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what happened in 2009, I actually used to work at Apache Cafe, and one of the members of the Wu-Tang Clan, a group here in the United States, is Raekwon. He did a concert there. And what happened, he opened the microphone up for anybody to jump on stage and spit with him. And I was in a room full of rappers. I'm not a rapper. I was in a room full of rappers and nobody got on stage. And then this song named Triumph comes on. And his people who I've served before, and they looked at me like, you need to get on stage and do this. So they pulled me on stage. And I'm like, okay, fine. So he did the first verse. I did the second verse. It just blew everyone's mind. Nobody saw it coming. Nobody expected it. And I mean, even to this day, like it's still unbelievable. But I'll have a link for that. And you'll see me on there. Like I'm on the microphone.
Yeah.
So.
And the link is they can type.
Probably the best thing to do, if they go on YouTube, they could type in, let's see, because the link is long, but they could actually do a search and just type Raekwon, Kitty Pryde, Apache Cafe, and then the video should show up. It should be one of the first ones, if not the first one.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kitty Pryde, for being on this show. So next week we will have Reverend Beverly Dale, who will be exploring God as Eros. That's right. She will be talking about Christianity and how you can understand how God is Eros. So check out Eros Evolution next week.
Awesome.